Before pulling the trigger, the soldier's hands were shaking. I told him, "Calm down, you are just killing a man." These were the words that came out of 7-year-old Mateo's mouth as he watched a historical documentary on television, words that froze his mother's blood. His mother, Rita, looked at her son in horror, because her little boy wasn't just pointing at a television screen, he was recounting one of history's most famous executions from the victim's own perspective. That ordinary evening in Miami would mark the end of a family and the beginning of a century-old mystery. The plate in Rita's hand fell to the floor. Mateo didn't speak Spanish. Spanish wasn't spoken at home. He had never heard of La Higuera, but the most frightening thing was the seriousness in his son's voice. This was not a fantasy. What happened in the weeks that followed would force an ordinary American family to confront one of history's most controversial figures. The world would discover that the fire of a revolution spanning centuries still burned in a child's soul. Mateo Garcia was born in 2017 in Miami's Little Havana neighborhood. No one in Mateo's family tree had a revolutionary past. On the contrary, his grandmother Lourdes came from a family that had fled the Castro regime. The child grew up hating communism. The first strange incident occurred when Mateo was just 4 years old. The family was visiting the Miami Seaquarium. While the children were watching the dolphins, Mateo suddenly became uncomfortable. He began to have trouble breathing. Rita panicked. "Mateo, what is wrong? Are you okay?" That day, the child suffered an unexplained asthma attack. When he was taken to the hospital, the doctors found signs of asthma. It could be genetic. "Does anyone in your family have a history of asthma?" Rita and Danny shook their heads. No one had asthma. But no one knew that Che Guevara had struggled with chronic asthma throughout his life. By the time Mateo turned 5, the words coming out of his mouth became increasingly disturbing. One day, as they were getting ready to go to the park, Mateo asked his mother, "Mom, where is my motorcycle?" Rita laughed. "Son, you don't have a motorcycle. You are only 5 years old," Mateo insisted. "I did. Alberto and I were riding it. It was a very long trip. We went through the mountains." Rita's smile instantly vanished. "Who is Alberto? He is my friend. We went on a trip to help sick people." Hearing this conversation, his grandmother Lourdes came into the room from the living room. Her face was pale. Rita, Che Guevara's closest friend, was named Alberto Granado. In the 1950s, they traveled through South America together on a motorcycle. Rita looked at her grandmother in surprise. "But how would Mateo know that? We never talked about these things." Lourdes sat down on her knees and looked into Mateo's eyes. "Mateo, what kind of person was this Alberto?" The boy began to tell her without hesitation. "He laughed a lot. He was a medical student. He cried when we went to see the leprosy patients. He was a good man." Every detail was correct. Alberto Granado was a friend from Che's youth. Together they had made the journey described in the Motorcycle Diaries, witnessing the poverty of Latin America. This journey was the experience that turned Che into a revolutionary. How could a 5-year-old American child describe a book he had never read and a movie he had never seen in such detail? Rita and Danny began to worry. These were not the words of a normal child. They decided to take him to a child psychologist. Dr. Helena Voss was a child behavior specialist working at the University of Miami. Her first meeting with Mateo would be the strangest appointment of her career. "Mateo, your mother told me you remember some things. Can you tell me about them?" Mateo nodded. "I lived in the mountains. We fought a guerrilla war. The rich oppressed the poor. We fought against them." Dr. Voss raised an eyebrow. "How old were you?" I don't know. I was an adult. I was a doctor and a fighter. People called me Commander." Dr. Voss continued the conversation with a different question. "So where were you born?" "I was born in Rosario, Argentina. Che Guevara was also born there. Can you tell us about your family?" "I had problems with my father. My mother was more understanding. Her name was Celia." Dr. Voss was surprised by what he heard. This information was correct. Moreover, no one in his family had that name. "Mateo, how do these memories make you feel?" The child's eyes welled up. "I am sorry. I couldn't do much. I should have saved more people, but they caught me." "Who caught you?" Soldiers caught me in a small village in Bolivia. Dr. Voss's eyes widened in astonishment. In 1967, Che Guevara had been captured by CIA-backed soldiers in Bolivia and executed in the village of La Higuera. The boy began to tremble. They put me in a room. It was a small school building. The floor was dirt. My hands were tied. I was tired. My asthma was very bad. Rita sat down in the corner of the room. She cried silently as she listened to her son. Then a man came. He was a young sergeant. He had received orders, but there was hesitation in his eyes. I looked at him and said, "Calm down. You are just killing a man." These were Che Guevara's last words to his executioner, Mario Terán. It was a detail documented in historical records, but rarely mentioned in popular media. Dr. Voss took a deep breath. "Mateo, how do you know these things?" "I don't know. I remember them as if they happened yesterday." After the interview, Dr. Voss had a private conversation with Rita and Danny. Normally, in situations like this, imagination, television, and the internet play a role. But the details Mateo described are very interesting. Most of them aren't general knowledge. They're pieces of Che's private life, his emotional moments. Rita asked anxiously, "What should we do?" "Record everything," Mateo says. "Verify it and do some research. And never give him any information about Che Guevara. We will test the authenticity of his own memories." That night, Rita spent hours researching on the internet. She learned everything about Che's life, his friends, his family, and everything she read matched what Mateo had said. But the real shocking discovery would come the next morning. Mateo started drawing something. The pencil in his hand was drawing a map on the paper. "Mom, this is where we hid." Rita looked at the paper. Mateo was drawing a map of the mountainous region in southeastern Bolivia. It showed the rivers, hills, and the exact location of the guerrilla camp. That was the area where Cho had established his Bolivian guerrilla camp in 1966 to 1967. How did a 7-year-old boy know the location of a secret guerrilla camp in a country he had never seen 50 years ago? Rita looked at her husband. "Danny, I think we have a big problem. Could this be real?" Danny looked at his son. Mateo continued drawing peacefully. It was as if he was remembering the old days. "If he really is Che, why did he come here? Why did he become our son?" This question was only the beginning of the questions the family would answer in the coming months. A week later, Grandmother Lards made an unexpected proposal. "We need to test Mateo. We'll do a real test. We'll ask him things about Che Guevara that have never been published." Rita looked skeptical. "But Mom, you hated Che. That is why we fled from Castro." "I know. But if this child really is Che, we need to know. Because before Che Guevara did what he did in Cuba, he was an idealistic young man. Maybe what his soul needs to remember is not the weapons, but his original dream." Lards had spoken with her elderly Cuban friends. She had met with people who had lived through the Castro Revolution. From them, she had learned the exact address of the house where Che had stayed in Cuba, his private habits, the words he never spoke in public. Mateo sat down at the table. His grandmother was across from him. Dr. Voss was beside him. Rita and Danny were in the background, recording with a phone camera. "Mateo, I am going to ask you some questions. Just answer what you know, okay?" The child nodded. "Where did you stay in Cuba?" Mateo closed his eyes. It was as if he was thinking about his memories. "I lived in a big house in the Vedado neighborhood. Fidel lived nearby." Lourdes looked at her notes. This information was correct. "What did you do at home?" "I worked a lot. I read documents until late at night. I smoked a lot. It was bad for my asthma, but I couldn't quit." Dr. Voss took notes. It was a well-known fact that Che was a heavy smoker. Lourdes asked a more difficult question. "How was your relationship with Fidel?" Mateo's face fell. It was complicated. "He was my leader, but sometimes we didn't see eye to eye. He talked a lot. I was a man of action. Fidel was a man of words. I knew that eventually I would have to leave Cuba. There was no place for me there anymore." This was one of the most secret truths about why Che left Cuba. Official history says Che left of his own accord, but in reality there were ideological differences with Castro. This conversation had never been made public. Grandmother Lourdes' hands trembled. "So how did you feel when you left Cuba?" Mateo's eyes filled with tears. "I was sad. I was leaving my children and my family behind. My wife Alida would be very sad. But the revolution wasn't over. People were fighting for freedom in other places too. Che's second wife's name was Alida March. Mateo had never heard that name in his family. Mateo, do you remember your children? The boy smiled. Hildita. My first daughter. She was born in Russia. Then I had 4 more children with Alida. Aladita, Camilo, Celia, Ernesto. Each name matched the historical records exactly. Do you miss them? Rita asked. I miss them every day. But the revolution was more important than personal feelings. Or so I thought. Maybe I was wrong. This last sentence made everyone in the room cry. Was Mateo expressing Che's regret? The test continued. Lards asked questions that had never been published. What did you do before going to Bolivia? I changed my appearance. I cut my hair. I wore glasses. I was known as Ramon. No one should have recognized me as Che Guevara. Correct. Che had disguised himself to enter Bolivia secretly. He had used the alias Ramon. Who was with you in Bolivia? Mateo began listing names. Pombo, Inti, Benigno, Tania. He paused. Tania. She was a very brave female agent. She worked for us. But we lost her. Tania was the East German agent in Che's Bolivian guerrilla group. She had been killed in 1967. What happened to her? Asked Dr. Voss. She died in the army's attack on the river. We couldn't find her body. I was sad. She was a very good comrade. Rita was now crying silently. How did a child know these details? Lourdes asked her final question. In La Higuera, what were you thinking on your last day? I had failed. The revolution didn't spread to Bolivia. The peasants didn't join us. I lost my friends. I was tired. I had run out of my asthma medicine. I couldn't breathe, and I knew this was the end. But what I thought about most were my children. I couldn't say goodbye to them. Then, in Mateo's own voice, Mom, why do I dream about that man every night? Rita rushed to her son's side. Because you are a very special child, Mateo. You have very special memories. Dr. Voss made a decision. I need to document this case. At the University of Virginia, there is Dr. Jim Tucker, who studies childhood reincarnation. I will contact him. A month later, Dr. Tucker came to Miami. Dr. Tucker was a world-renowned researcher who had been studying reincarnation cases for 40 years. He was excited when he heard Mateo's story. This case is different. Most children carry the memories of ordinary people, but Mateo carries the memories of one of history's most controversial figures. This makes proving it both easier and harder. Dr. Tucker conducted a special test with Mateo. He asked questions that couldn't be found on Google. He asked details from Che's private diaries that only expert historians would know. In your Bolivia diary, what did you write on the 7th of October, 1967? Mateo thought. The day before we were captured, the soldiers were very close. I knew we couldn't escape, but I was still hopeful. I wrote this, we continue, as a small group. Dr. Tucker took out Che's original diary. He opened the entry for the 7th of October, 1967. It was written in Spanish, exactly as Mateo had said. Dr. Tucker couldn't hide his astonishment. Mateo, do you know Spanish? Numbers sometimes the words just come to me. The researcher conducted another test. He showed Mateo some photos from Cuba in 1960, places where Che was and wasn't. Mateo pointed to the correct locations without hesitation. This is the University of Havana. I gave a speech here. This is a beach, not a place I spent time at. I didn't like beaches. Che was one of the rare Cubans who didn't like beaches. Why did you come back? Because there are some unfinished things. There are still things to show people. Revolution isn't just about guns. It is about love, education, compassion. I needed to understand that, but I learned it too late. Dr. Tucker knew he was witnessing the most compelling case of his career. Rita and Danny, your son carries Che Guevara's unknown memories. Not just historical facts, but emotional memories, regrets, hopes. He remembers everything. But why? Why was Che reborn into an American family? We live a life that is the complete opposite of his ideals. Dr. Tucker smiled. Maybe that is why. Maybe souls return to learn the lessons they didn't learn. Chi abandoned his family for the revolution. Maybe now he is here to learn the value of love and family. That night, while Mateo slept, Rita entered his room. She looked at her son's face. He looked peaceful, but sometimes in his sleep he would mumble in Spanish. He spoke words she didn't recognize. Under Mateo's pillow was a picture he had drawn. There were mountains, gorillas, and a man with a beret in the middle, at the bottom. In childish handwriting it said, "Always until victory." It was Che's famous slogan. Rita kissed her son on the forehead. "You don't have to fight anymore, Mateo. You can just be a child now." But she knew that the revolutionary spirit inside Mateo would never sleep. Mateo's 7th birthday unfolded in an unexpected way. Rita had organized a small party for her son. His friends would come, the cake would be cut, gifts would be opened. It would be a normal childhood celebration. But as Mateo blew out the candles, he said something strange. "Mom, I died at 39. Now I am 7 again. How old am I in total?" The guests looked at each other silently. Rita forced a smile. "Honey, you are 7 years old." Mateo nodded, but there was deep sadness in his eyes. 39 years wasn't enough. "I couldn't do much. This time I have to do better." When the party was over, Dr. Tucker pulled Rita aside. "You have to take Mateo to Bolivia." Rita looked at him in surprise. "Why?" "Because his most intense memories are in La Higuera. If reincarnation really exists, his reaction when he goes there will reveal everything." Danny objected. "But he is only 7 years old. Wouldn't taking him to the place where he died be traumatic?" Dr. Tucker looked serious. "But maybe he needs this to close that trauma. Mateo relives the moment of his death in his dreams every night. Perhaps seeing that place in reality will bring him peace." 2 weeks later, the Garcia family flew to Bolivia. They were accompanied by Dr. Tucker and a documentary crew. First, they went to La Paz, the capital of Bolivia. When the plane landed, Mateo looked out the window. Seeing the mountains, his body trembled. "The Andes, this is my home. I was meant to be here." When they left the airport, everyone was having trouble breathing, but Mateo was the one struggling the most. He had an asthma attack. He couldn't breathe. "Give him his medicine now," Rita shouted. Dr. Tucker intervened. "Mateo, calm down, breathe slowly." With the help of the medicine, Mateo calmed down. But now everyone knew Che's greatest enemy was asthma, and Mateo carried the same enemy. The next day, they set off for the guerrilla camp. Che is based in 1967. The road was very difficult. Mountains, forests, muddy paths. A normal 7-year-old child couldn't have endured it. But Mateo walked forward with a strange confidence. "We would pass through here. We would set up ambushes here." The guide looked at him in astonishment. "Have you been here before?" This is my first time," said Rita. Mateo touched a tree. "We would take breaks under this tree. Pombo would light a cigarette. I would take my asthma medicine. Elida hadn't given me enough medicine. I was angry with her." Dr. Tucker turned on the voice recorder. Every word was being documented. Finally, they arrived at the old campsite. Now there was a memorial. A small museum had been built. But in 1967, this was the secret base of a revolutionary group. Mateo walked to the center of the field. He closed his eyes. Our tent was here. The kitchen was over there. The weapons cache was over there. The museum attendant pulled out a historical map. The places Mateo pointed to were exactly right. Then the boy entered the museum. On the walls were photos of Chi taken at the camp. Mateo stopped in front of one photo. Che and his team looked tired but determined. That day, morale was very low. The villagers weren't joining us. We were starting to go hungry, the attendant confirmed. That photo was taken in August 1967. Records say the group was starving at the time. Mateo turned to another photo, Tania. A young woman dressed in guerrilla clothing. His eyes welled up. "I was very sad when we lost her. She was a brave woman. She was the only female guerrilla. I owed her so much." Dr. Tucker touched Mateo's shoulder. "Are you ready to go to La Higuera?" The boy took a deep breath. The journey took 4 hours. After traversing rugged and mountainous roads, a small village finally came into view. La Higuera. As soon as Mateo saw the village, he began to cry. This is my final resting place. When they got out of the car, the villagers approached with curious glances. Tourists rarely came here. An old man looked at Mateo. Is the child sick? Rita explained. No, just an emotional moment. Mateo began walking through the village. He moved forward without hesitation, as if he knew the way. The school must be here. And indeed, there was a small school building. It was now a museum. La Escuelita. This was where Che spent his final hours. Mateo stood in front of the building. He was trembling. Can I go inside? He whispered. The attendant opened the door. The interior was very small. There was a simple classroom with a dirt floor. Che's last photographs were hung on the walls. Mateo walked to the corner of the room. He sat down in the exact same spot. They tied me up here. My hands were behind my back. My feet were numb. I was very tired. I wanted to sleep, but I couldn't. I knew that when morning came, it would be my last day. The teacher came at night. She gave me water. I thanked her. I never forgot her kindness. The attendant jumped up in surprise. Julia Cortez, the village teacher, really gave Che water. This information is not in the tourist brochures. Only the old people in the village know. Dr. Tucker couldn't believe his eyes. Mateo continued. In the morning, a few soldiers came. They looked at me. Some were curious. Some were afraid. I was just a man. A tired, sick, defeated man. Then he came. The young sergeant. He was drunk. He had orders. He held the gun with trembling hands. Mateo stood up. He came to the middle of the room, right where Che had stood. I looked at him. Calm down. You are just killing a man. But I was thinking, I'll never see my children again. Tears ran down his cheeks. Then I heard the gunshot. I felt a pain in my chest. Then everything went dark. Mateo collapsed to the floor. Rita ran screaming. Mateo! Mateo! The child opened his eyes. He was confused. Mom, what happened? You were talking and then you passed out. Dr. Tucker examined Mateo. He was physically fine, but he suffered emotional shock. He relived the traumatic memory. 75-year-old Manuel entered the room. I was here. The 9th of October, 1967, when they brought Che Guevara, I was there too. I was a little boy, but I saw everything. Mateo looked at the old man. You were standing outside the school. You looked scared. Manuel's eyes widened. Yes, I was hiding by the door. How did you know? Because I saw you. I was watching you from inside. Everyone in the room felt a chill. Manuel sat down next to Mateo. Do you know what happened that day? Yes, I died that day. Number that day? Che Guevara died. But his idea lived on. Our village changed. The world changed. You are still here, in a different body, but you are still here. Mateo looked into the old man's eyes. Why did I come back? Why was I born in America, into a rich family? I should have been with the poor. Manuel smiled. Maybe the revolution isn't just for the poor. Maybe the rich need to learn too. Maybe your job is to teach them empathy. That night, they stayed in a simple guest house in the village. Mateo looked out the window. The stars were very bright. Rita came over. How do you feel? It is like I've put down a heavy burden. I no longer see the moment of death in my dreams, because I lived that moment. I really lived it, and now I can leave it behind. Rita hugged her son. You are a very brave boy, Mateo. I am not just Che. I am Mateo. Che has memories, but Mateo has a life. And in this life, I don't need a gun. I need love. Dr. Tucker took notes that night. Mateo Garcia underwent a profound change after visiting La Higuera. He was able to confront and leave behind the traumatic memory. This is a significant turning point in reincarnation therapy. Souls may be returning to resolve unresolved traumas. The next morning, as the family left the village, Mateo looked at the school building one last time. He touched the wall with his hand. You can rest now, he whispered, and they left La Higuera. But the revolutionary spirit within Mateo was now preparing for a different revolution. A revolution of love. When they returned to Miami, Mateo was a different child. After the trip to Bolivia, he no longer cried at night. The dream of the execution scene had completely stopped. It was as if confronting the traumatic moment had finally set him free. But Chi's memories did not disappear. They just became more peaceful. The soul remembered its mission. Dr. Tucker presented Mateo's case at the University of Virginia. It became a groundbreaking case in reincarnation research. The case of Mateo Garcia teaches us something important. Souls can return to complete unfinished business. Che Guevara sacrificed his family for the revolution. As Mateo, he is learning the importance of love and family. However, the most surprising development came from Cuba. Alaida March, Chi's widow, heard about Mateo's story. The 80-year-old woman sent a video message. On the screen appeared an elderly but strong woman. "Mateo, I don't know you. But what you've told me are things only Ernesto would know. The names of our children, the respect you showed Tania, the last memories at La Higuera." She paused. Her eyes filled with tears. "If Ernesto's spirit truly lives within you, know that I forgive you. Because I understand that your ideal was very big. And now, perhaps you have found a second chance to grow up in a family with love." Mateo cried as he watched the screen. "That is Alaida. My wife." Rita hugged her son. "No, sweetheart. She was the wife of another life. Now we are your family." Mateo shook his head. "I know, but I owe her an apology. I shouldn't have left. I shouldn't have abandoned my children." Months passed. Mateo's story appeared in documentaries, academic articles, and books. Skeptics were still searching for explanations. The child could have learned it from the internet. His family could have manipulated him. Coincidence and imagination. But no skeptic could explain Mateo's memory of living in La Higuera. Dr. Tucker wrote in his book, "The case of Mateo Garcia is a turning point in reincarnation science, because not only historical facts were confirmed, but emotional facts as well. Chi is regret, longing, trauma, all live on in Mateo's soul." Today, Mateo is 12 years old. He is a normal American child. He goes to school, plays soccer with his friends, and enjoys video games. But still, sometimes his eyes gaze into the distance. "What are you thinking about?" Rita asks. "Sometimes I miss the mountains, but not for war anymore. For peace." Che's memories no longer control him. Mateo has learned to integrate them into his own life. Rita and Danny are proud of their son's maturity. "Sometimes I was afraid of the Che inside Mateo. But now I understand. Che came to teach Mateo a lesson, and Mateo taught Che a lesson." In 2024, Mateo received an offer. The Cuban government invited him to Havana. Rita hesitated. "I don't know. I am afraid they'll turn you into a political symbol." But Mateo wanted to go. "I need to say goodbye one last time." They went to Havana. Mateo stood in front of the monument. He left flowers. "You can rest now. Your mission is complete." And at that moment, something strange happened. The wind suddenly picked up on a calm day. The petals of the flowers flew into the air. It was like an answer. Mateo smiled. I know he heard Che Guevara's last words, "Shoot, coward, you are only killing a man." But Mateo's words are different. "Don't shoot. No one needs to die anymore. Let's live with love." Do spirits really come back? If so, why? And most importantly, can they change? Mateo's story says yes to the last question. Chi chose violence. Mateo chooses love. Same soul, different lessons. Until victory. But this time, victory is in love. Every story we share is a door opening to the unknown. Mateo's story shows us that souls can grow, change, and learn. If this story moved you, join us. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe in reincarnation? Is soul truly living on in Mateo? And remember, true victory lies not in hatred, but in love.